Thank you, Mr. President. And sitting on Finance Committee, I haven't been on taxes for a number of years now. I do miss it sometimes. But sitting on Finance, we see virtually all the budget bills except the tax bill. And in doing so, we see all the shortages in what's available in all the budgets. Lack of funding for broadband that we could be using this year, E12, early childhood, things like the special education subsidy that we could address. Higher education, our law, state law says we're going to cover 2/3 of the cost of higher education in Minnesota for public education. What are we now, 40%? Students are sinking in debt. Child care, environment, housing. We had a crisis before pandemic. We got a crisis during it that's worse. We got one coming out after it. Mental health, disability services, transportation, zeroing out Metro Transit in the state budget, in these budget things. And every time we look at those budgets, the chairs who are presenting their bills come in and say, well, we did the best we could given the target we have. And Mr. President, those targets are set by the Senate Republicans. Those targets can be changed by the Senate Republicans. And I think it's worth pointing out again that Senator Gazelka is not Charlton Heston, and this isn't the Ten Commandments, and those targets do not come down from on high in tablets of stone. Those are something this body can change. And this bill doesn't set the targets for any of those, but this is the one that underlies our ability to address those targets. And so, Mr. President, I have the A37 amendment at the desk.
Senator Marty offers the A37 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Marty moves to amend House File Number 991 as amended pursuant to Rule 45 as follows. Page 16, after line 14, insert. This is the A37 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the reason I'm offering this amendment, which is a simple amendment, it would create a fifth tier. It would ask a little bit more for the top end, the wealthiest people in our state, something that I think a lot of them have been willing to pay. 10 years ago or so, I remember both the St. Paul and Minneapolis papers had full-page ads. A lot of people saying, we think you should tax us more. We ought to pay our fair share. And this amendment would do that. And the reason I'm asking for this is because our budgets show our values. Budgets, some have said, are a moral document. They tell what we prioritize. And I could go on about some of the housing problems that we are not addressing this year that we urgently need to do. I'm going to just talk for a minute, though, about the problem of hunger in our state. Some countries don't have problems with hunger. Our country, it's not because of a lack of food. It's clearly not. We've called ourselves the breadbasket of the world some years. We have plenty of food. But in Minnesota, 1 in 12 adults is food insecure, which means they're hungry at times. 1 in 8 children. I don't know if any of you have ever been in this situation, but 1 in 8 of the children in this state, there are times during the year when they may go to bed without food, when they're hungry. And that's not okay. And when Senator Klein had an amendment to lower taxes at the bottom end to help some of these folks, oh, we were all in favor of that, but we weren't really because we didn't want to pay for it. When Senator Murphy, I think it was, had offered the earned income tax credit, we want to help these folks, a little bit of tax bump for those hard-working, low-income folks who don't earn enough to make ends meet. We wanted to help them, and everybody said, it's a good idea, but we don't want to pay for it. But if you're a parent and you're putting kids to bed, you're not going to eat yourself tonight because you don't have enough food for your kids. So you try and give them as much as you can, and you'll do without. You'll make it somehow, not healthy for you. You know how bad it is for their brains, their developing brains. Or you're trying to decide how you're going to pay for your mental health medication or something else. And you choose, well, you don't take the meds because you need the food. This is pretty sad for the wealthiest country and one of the wealthiest states in that country. Say we got 1 out of 8 kids who are going to bed hungry. And so this amendment is not, it's not one saying we should appropriate more money to deal with providing food, something I'd support doing. The Senate, lots of members of the Senate supported Senator Miller's effort to help stock our food shelves, an annual food drive. That's a good thing to do. But it's not going to touch 0.1% of these families are doing without. It does help. It really helps, and I want to encourage that. But this amendment's not providing money for food support. It's not providing money for higher education. Boy, we sure need it. But this is the only way when the majority says we got targets, we got to live within our means. A lot easier for those of us on the floor to live within our means than the people who don't have enough money to feed their kids. And they're in every one of our communities. Suburban communities, we got them. Core cities, they've got them. Rural communities. 10 years ago on the Poverty Commission, I remember traveling around every corner of the state. The senator at the time from Senator Weber's district, when he saw some of his constituents, I know that woman's parents. I didn't know she was in this shape. People don't know that, but they're our constituents, they're our neighbors. And they're us, they're part of our state, they're part of who we are. And so this bill, this amendment, it's an easy one for a lot of people to vote against because it's not spending the money. It's simply saying we have the ability to do this, to pay for these things, to pay for higher education, pay for E-12 education, pay for child care. We have the ability to fund housing, not to make everybody rich. You don't do that. And we're not making the wealthy people poor. We're just asking for a little bit more. So when we vote on these things, let's remember, I'm offering it here because it's the only way. If I tried to offer more funding for health care or housing or broadband on the Senate floor, if I tried any of those amendments, they'd be ruled out of order because they don't fall within the targets. But again, those targets did not come down from on high. They were set in this body, and this body can change them. And this amendment shows how we could pay for them. And this is not going to touch 99% of our constituents. It's not going to touch those who are hurting, as Senator Nelson says she's concerned about. People at the top end, I'm not trying to hurt them. Just saying they can pay their fair share. That's all we're asking for. I urge your support and ask for a roll call.